When the group had taken turns exploiting the girl, they decided to kill her. But as soon as they went outside, the girl presented herself to the guard. But just as the guard's smile became difficult to control, at that moment, the girl slit his carotid artery, so that all who insulted them pay blood for blood. The two sisters left the place, cursing, and arrived at a hardware store. As soon as they found highly lethal tools, they put them all in their shopping basket. This included an axe, 4 steel knives, 6 iron hammers, and even a large hand-operated cutter, so that they could also inflict extreme pain and torture. Oh! When the fat man woke up, he found that both his hands were tightly tied. At this moment, he finally understood the seriousness of the situation and began to beg for his life. But he hadn't expected the short-haired sister to take out a rusty iron nail and tie it tightly with wire, so that those animals who harmed them would pay the price with their own blood. To investigate the injustice done to them, the clever sisters obtained information about his accomplice from the fat man before his death and his 1 million rupees. And took a pistol. After this, both reached the church. When they saw the man with the tattoo on his hand was the one intending to harm them, the sisters suddenly realized that this priest was also a wolf in sheep's clothing. To inflict serious consequences, the short-haired sister entered the church with a baseball bat, but the priest was not at all worried. Instead, he hurled filthy abuses at her entire family. But suddenly, after this, they tied the priest to the back of the car with an iron chain and dragged him from Heilongjiang to Tibet. By the time the car stopped, the priest was already bruised and covered in blood. However, they had no plan to let him go. It was then seen that the short-haired sister took a can of gasoline from the car and poured it over the person's entire body. As soon as the gasoline caught fire, and this man immediately caught fire in the fierce flames. In the end, he was completely burnt to ashes. But these three were not the only ones who harmed them. To finish them all, the sisters quickly made a big decision. It was to find the corrupt police who had tortured them. And at the same time, that corrupt police officer was still preparing to commit a crime. But he didn't know that the sisters had already come after him. Just so that the short-haired sister gave a slight push on his head, and Black Chin immediately fell unconscious on the ground. When Black Chin woke up, he found that these two girls were the same ones he had troubled before. But the sisters did not kill him immediately, because they wanted Black Chin to experience extreme fear. At this time, Black Chin finally realized the seriousness of the matter. So he started pleading with them to let him go. But he didn't expect that the long-haired sister would let him play a guessing game. If he guessed correctly, he would get a new life, but if he guessed incorrectly, there would be a big hole in his head. Very precisely, there was no bullet in his hand. But when Heijing Qingsheng found himself to be right, so Duen Faji also asked him to guess wholeheartedly. At this time, the bound Heijing Qingsheng reluctantly chose the right hand, but it turned out there were 5 matchsticks, indicating a bullet would be placed in a revolver to be fired 5 times. Hearing this, Heijing Qingsheng was so frightened that his diaper was soaked, as his chance of survival was only 1/6. No.
Heijing was fortunate to escape the first bullet. But at the second bullet, extreme fear forced him to scream loudly.
When the sisters heard the painful screams of the black police, they got very excited, so they immediately fired the 3rd bullet. But they couldn't have imagined that this man's luck was so good. He, after the 3rd bullet, the 4th, and he also successfully escaped the 5th bullet. But when he asked the sisters to keep their promise, the long-haired sister shot him in the head because the first black police had played the same trick on them, and the sisters' next target for revenge was this elderly man, as he was the one who had initially rendered the sisters unconscious, with a glass of red wine going down the stomach. This man fainted in the same way. But when he woke up, then he found the no. Oh, why?